I still remember the first time I heard his voice. It was a sound that was unlike anything I had ever heard before. Pure, powerful, and filled with an emotion that seemed to reach deep into the soul. Even as a child, Michael Jackson had a way of making people stop and listen. His voice carried a depth that was far beyond his years, a maturity that hinted at something extraordinary. I didn't know it then, but that young boy from Gary, Indiana, was about to change the world. Michael was born on August 29, 1958, into a large family, the 8th of 10 children. The Jackson household was small, modest, and filled with music. His father, Joe Jackson, was a strict man with a dream, to see his sons rise to fame and fortune through music. The Jackson home was filled with the sounds of rehearsals, discipline, and relentless practice. Every day, Michael and his brothers trained, their young hands blistered from playing instruments, their feet sore from dancing on the wooden floors of their small home. While most children spent their evenings playing outside, Michael was inside, perfecting his craft. It didn't take long for people to notice that there was something special about the youngest member of the Jackson Five. While his older brothers were talented, Michael had a spark that was impossible to ignore. He had the voice, the moves, and most importantly, the ability to connect with an audience. Whether he was singing about love, joy, or heartbreak, you felt every word as if it were coming from his own lived experience. When he stepped onto a stage, he transformed. The shy, soft-spoken boy from Indiana became a powerhouse of energy and emotion, captivating audiences with every note. His presence was magnetic, and people couldn't look away. I watched in awe as he commanded the stage, his tiny frame moving effortlessly to the rhythm, his voice soaring over the music. It was clear that Michael wasn't just singing, he was telling a story, inviting the world into his emotions. Fame came quickly, but it came with a heavy price. While other children his age were going to school, playing with friends, and enjoying carefree childhoods, Michael was in studios, on tour buses, and in front of flashing cameras. He longed to go to the park, to ride a bike down the street, to live like a normal child. But normal was never meant for Michael Jackson. Despite the sacrifices, he never let go of his dream. He wanted more than just success. He wanted to be the best. Even as a child, he was determined to push beyond limits, to set himself apart from every artist before him. And he did. Little did the world know, that boy with the big brown eyes and the angelic voice was only just beginning. The 1980s belonged to Michael Jackson. It was a time when music, fashion, and culture were forever changed by one man's vision, talent, and relentless pursuit of perfection. His journey from child star to global icon was not just a story of success, but of transformation. He wasn't just a performer, he was a revolution. When he released Off the Wall in 1979, it was clear that Michael was stepping into a new phase of his career. The album was a critical and commercial success, with hits like Don't Stop Till, You Get Enough, and Rock With You showcasing his incredible vocal ability and unmatched sense of rhythm. But as groundbreaking as that album was, Michael wasn't satisfied. He wanted more. He wanted to create something that would leave an impact for generations to come. And then came Thriller. Released in 1982, it wasn't just an album. It was a phenomenon. Every song was a masterpiece, from the haunting melodies of Thriller to the heartfelt emotions of Human Nature. The world had never seen an artist dominate the music industry the way Michael did. He shattered records, topped charts, and redefined what it meant to be a pop star. But it wasn't just the music. It was the way he moved, the way he commanded attention without saying a word. When he stepped onto a stage, something magical happened. His performances were electrifying, each movement precise yet filled with raw energy. And then, on March 25, 1983, during a performance for Motown 25, Yesterday, Today, Forever, he did something that left the world in awe. The Moonwalk. With a single gliding movement, Michael changed history. The moment he slid backward across the stage, defying gravity, time seemed to stop. People gasped, audiences screamed, and television viewers rewound their tapes trying to understand how he had done it. It wasn't just a dance move, it was a symbol, an unforgettable moment. that cemented his status as the king of pop, and he didn't stop there. His music videos weren't just videos, they were short films, each telling a story, pushing boundaries, and setting new standards for creativity. The Thriller music video was a cultural event, blending horror, dance, and music in a way no one had ever attempted before. Beat It and Billie Jean turned him into a fashion icon, his red leather jacket and single white glove becoming symbols of a generation. With each achievement, Michael raised the bar, setting new records and breaking them himself. He wasn't just an artist, he was an innovator, a perfectionist who lived for his craft. The world couldn't get enough of him. Fans screamed his name, crowds gathered just to catch a glimpse, and artists everywhere tried to follow in his footsteps. Michael Jackson had become more than a star. He was a legend in the making, and his journey was only beginning. As much as the world adored Michael Jackson, it also scrutinized him. The same media that once celebrated his genius began to dissect his every move. Fame had given him everything: adoration, wealth, and influence, but it also took away his privacy, his peace, and at times, his happiness. No longer was he just an entertainer. He had become a spectacle, a subject of relentless curiosity and controversy. As the years went on, Michael's appearance began to change, and people took notice. Speculations ran wild. Whispers about plastic surgery, skin conditions, and eccentric lifestyle choices filled the tabloids. The world watched as the young boy from Gary, Indiana, transformed into a man shrouded in mystery. While he had been diagnosed with vitiligo, a condition that caused the loss of skin pigmentation, many refused to believe it, choosing instead to fuel rumors that he was deliberately trying to change his race. The more Michael tried to explain, the more the media twisted his words, painting him as someone detached from reality. Despite the endless scrutiny, his music never faltered. He continued to pour his heart into his art, releasing albums like Bad, Dangerous, and History, each filled with hits that proved his creative brilliance hadn't dimmed. Songs like Man in the Mirror and Heal the World showed his deep concern for humanity, his desire to inspire change and spread love. His humanitarian efforts were endless, donating millions to charity, visiting sick children in hospitals, and using his platform to raise awareness about social issues. Yet no matter how much good he did, the negativity always seemed to overshadow it. Then came the accusations, the trials, the endless legal battles. The world that once adored him now doubted him. He was investigated, humiliated, and dragged through the courts, his reputation hanging in the balance. The stress took its toll, his health deteriorated, his spirit weakened, and he became increasingly reclusive. The man who once thrived under the spotlight now seemed to shrink from it, seeking refuge in the walls of Neverland, his sanctuary, from the cruel outside world. I watched as he fought to hold on to his legacy, as he tried to remind the world of the love he had always given. He wasn't just the king of pop. He was a man, a father, a dreamer who had spent his life trying to bring joy to others. But fame is a double-edged sword, and no matter how high he had risen, the weight of it all was crushing. Through it all, his music remained his escape. Even in his darkest moments, he found solace in melodies, in lyrics that spoke of hope and resilience. He never stopped creating, never stopped believing that love could heal even the deepest wounds. But the world had changed, and so had Michael. He was no longer just an icon. He was a man struggling to find peace in a world that refused to let him rest. June 25th, 2009. It was a day that felt unreal, a moment frozen in time. The news spread like wildfire. Michael Jackson was gone. At Sear. First, it didn't seem possible. He had been larger than life, a figure who had shaped music, dance, and culture in ways no one else ever had. How could someone so influential, so legendary, suddenly no longer be here? The world stood still, and an overwhelming sense of grief swept across continents. Fans gathered outside hospitals, at his childhood home in Gary, at the gates of Neverland, and in cities across the globe. Candlelight vigils illuminated the night, people wept openly, and tributes poured in from fellow artists, world leaders, and millions of fans who had grown up with his music. His passing was more than just the loss of an entertainer, it was the end of an era. For decades, he had been a constant, his music the soundtrack of countless lives. Now, silence replaced his voice, and the weight of his absence was almost unbearable. But even in death, Michael's influence didn't fade. If anything, it grew stronger. His albums soared to the top of the charts, his music videos flooded television. Screens, and his legacy was revisited with a newfound appreciation. People remembered why they had fallen in love with him in the first place. Not for the controversies, not for the rumors, but for the way he made them feel. The magic he brought to the world had never truly left. It had just been buried beneath the noise. His dance moves continued to inspire new generations of performers. His songs remained timeless, and his impact on pop culture was undeniable. No artist had ever blended genres so seamlessly, had ever turned music videos into cinematic masterpieces, or had ever captivated audiences with such intensity. His humanitarian efforts, often overshadowed by the media's obsession with his personal life, were finally recognized for what they were: acts of kindness from a man who genuinely wanted to heal the world. Children who had never even lived, in his lifetime, discovered his music, imitating his moonwalk, wearing the signature fedora, and singing along to Billie Jean. Artists across genres credited him as their inspiration, from pop icons to hip-hop legends to rock musicians. His influence was everywhere, woven into the fabric of the music industry. Even now, years after his passing, his presence is still felt. His voice still plays through speakers in every corner of the world. His image still graces murals and posters, and his spirit still moves through those who continue to celebrate his work. Michael Jackson didn't just make music, he created moments, emotions, and memories that will live forever. Legends never truly die, their light never fades. And as long as his music plays, as long as there are people who remember, Michael Jackson's legacy will continue to shine, an eternal force in the history of music and in the hearts of those who loved him.